So we're still on enterprise and entrepreneur, but today we want to talk about government support, why government supports business startups. When we talk about business startups, we're talking about new entrepreneurs. How do government help them? How do government encourage them to engage into businesses? So yeah, government offers support to entrepreneurs to encourage new business startups. So basically, government helps. Government supports them. Government offers support so that they can be encouraged to start up new businesses. You have to put it in mind that one of government's aims and objective is to, or macroeconomic aim is to increase output, is to reduce unemployment. And for these things to happen, new businesses, new entrepreneurs must set in into that country. So that's why government is offering their support. So what are the reasons why government offers support? Number one, to reduce unemployment. To reduce unemployment, as new businesses will engage workers. So as soon as there's a new business, because demand for labor is derived demand. So that means if new businesses are setting up, new workers will be needed. So as soon as a new business is setting up, no matter how it is, someone is going to be engaged. So workers are going to be engaged. And that reduces the rate of unemployment. So that's one of the reasons. The second one is to increase competition. Yeah, I go to increase competition as new businesses will increase consumer choices. Competition here means that consumer choices increases. So as soon as there's a new business, the choices consumers will make will become more. So one business is adding up, that means one more choice for consumers to make. And that is competitiveness. That's competition anyway. The third point, to increase output. New businesses will increase the production scale of a country. So when new business starts up, it increases the number of production in that country. So that it increases the level of production in that country. GDP. That GDP will increase, yes. The fourth one, to benefit society, as some businesses are set up, not because they want to make profit, but they want to help the vulnerable. So some new businesses are set up. Some businesses are social enterprise. They are not there to aim, they are not aiming at profit or employing workers. They are aiming to help the vulnerables. Mm-hmm. Then the last one here, that businesses can grow further. Government helping small firms. So small firms of today will become bigger firms of tomorrow, might become bigger firms of tomorrow. Not all business will succeed. Yes. So, but if government is helping, especially those that are efficient, they could become bigger. And that would increase the competitiveness and international competitiveness of our country. Yes. Because output will increase and export will increase. Mm-hmm. I think that is clear. We go down. So how government supports business startups? Here I wrote how government supports business startups. The first one is business idea and help. Government can offer training for entrepreneurs and support sessions. So government could give trainings with their own finance. Government could finance trainings for new entrepreneurs. Yeah, it's all about money here. It's about giving them ideas, giving them knowledge, skills of becoming one. So government could organize training sessions. Government could organize workshops for those that feel like they want to become entrepreneurs. So government could help doing that. Instead of you putting your own money to find out or to search for training or to pay for training to become an entrepreneur, government could do that. And if government does that, it reduces the cost. Then it could encourage you to want to be to want to become an entrepreneur. Mm. The second one is premises, because government controls the society. Government owns virtually everything in the society. So government could give out, we call them enterprise zones at a low cost. So government could have places that would be apportioned for new entrepreneurs at a reduced price, which they can use for their businesses. The third point is finance. Here we're talking about government giving loans with charging low interest or giving grants to businesses, especially when they feel like, oh, these businesses would increase employment rate in the economy or reduce unemployment rate. So loan is not a subsidy like that. Loan is government actually giving money out to businesses to help their costs. But for subsidy, basically when government pays for imports to reduce cost of production, or government reducing tariffs to reduce the cost of production. So that's where subsidy comes in. But here, government is actually giving money out to businesses at a low rate of interest or giving them money without even asking it back. That's grant. I think it's clear.
Yes.
Then the next one is labor. For labor, government might give grants to small businesses, which could be used in training employees to increase productivity. The first one we talked about is business idea and help, which is giving training to entrepreneurs. Here we're talking about training employees. Government will not train employees for you because government does not know what you really do. But government can summarize who an entrepreneur is. Government can summarize that because any entrepreneur is an entrepreneur. In as much as you take the risk of setting up a business, in as much as you are controlling other factors of production, you are an entrepreneur. Be it banking, be it education, be it health sector, be it insurance, whatever it is, an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur. It controls other factors of production. Government could do that, but government cannot train your employees because you know what you do. So government could try to give you some grants to be able to train your employees to increase productivity. Because if productivity increases, output of a country will also increase. Do you get the point here? Yes. So the first one is training entrepreneurs. This one is about the workers, which will increase the output of the country. Literally, I think it's clear.
So the government are giving money to the entrepreneur to train
their workers.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
But the first one is about government actually training you to become an entrepreneur. Yes, clear? So that's about that. Then the last one is about research. Here, the government encourage universities to open up for new entrepreneurs or new startup businesses to do research because universities have a lot of research. They have a lot of works. They have a lot of books that new startups can go through without paying. Yes. So that could help them to become entrepreneurs. I think that is clear.
Yeah.
So go to methods of measuring size and limitations of these methods. So measuring the size of a business. Yeah, it's good to measure the size of a business. It's good to measure the size of a business, but measuring the size of a business, one thing about it is that businesses are different. So there are different ways businesses operate. So it is difficult to use one method to measure the size of a business. But when you are measuring the size of you get my point here.
Yes.
But when we talk about measuring the size of a business, we're talking about how big or small the business is. That is the basic about measuring the size of a business. But we cannot use one method to measure the size of a business. We need to check who is measuring the size. So it has to come from those who need to measure the size of the business. And because it comes from them, they know what to do, what kind of method they have to use. Do you get it?
Yes, sir.
Do you get my point here?
Yes,
measuring the size of a business is fine because it makes you to know how big or small a business is. But the type of measurement or the type of method you're going to use depends on who you are and what interest you have in the cause of measuring the size. I think you get the point there.
Yes.
So I wrote firms vary greatly in terms of size. As a result, there are different methods to be used to measure how big or small a business is. Who are those that find it useful to compare the size of the business? So we're talking about those who really who have interest in measuring the size of the business. That's the point. The first one is investors. They measure the size of the business because they want to decide if it's worth putting their savings into or not. So I want to know how big or small this business is. If it's worth me putting my own hard-earned money into it or not. That's investors.
Yes.
Because they want to return on their investments too. Yeah. And the bigger the company, they feel, the bigger the rate of returns on investment. The second one is government. For government, why do they have to measure the size of the business? I wrote, to ensure fair tax rates between the small and the large firms. So government wouldn't want to give the same tax rate to smaller firms and larger firms. That is unfair.
Yes.
And one of the qualities of a good tax is fairness. We did that in economics. One of the quality of a good tax is fairness. So fairness in terms of the rate at which you charge, the burden on each taxpayer. Do you get the point there?
Yes.
So that's about government. The third one is competitors. So when we talk about competitors, they measure the size of a business to know how big their business is compared to those of their rivals. Clear?
Yes.
The fourth one, workers. They want to know how big the company is, to know the numbers of workers they are about to work with. and how they can even trust the company.
Yes.
I think that is clear. Banks. Why do banks have to measure the size of a business? I wrote to understand the importance of giving out a loan to the business. Banks, they give loans.
Yeah.
So they want to know how important is that loan to that company, to that organization. And if the organization is not a high risk, or if the organization is not a high risk, they want to know. Because if the business is big to the extent that they feel like, oh, it is credit worthy, they will give the loan. I think it's clear.
Yeah.
Now, business that's all about that. Then we'll go to how we can measure the size of a business itself. So we measure the size of a business based on the numbers of people employed, based on the value of output, based on the value of sales, based on the value of capital employed. These are ways in which we can measure the size of a business. But they have their problems too, though. So we check. We start with number of people employed. For number of people employed, it means we are measuring the size of a business based on the number of workers the business has compared to those of its competitors. It's fine when you are measuring based on the numbers of workers, the same business. But that's when it becomes, an investor. You are contemplating on investing in education, and you are at the same time investing in health sector. Then you want to compare the numbers of workers employed in the health sector with numbers of workers maybe in a hospital and numbers of workers employed in the school. You want to compare before you can invest. Then it becomes difficult. Do you get the point I'm making? No. As an investor, we are talking about comparing the size of the business as an investor here.
Yeah.
As an investor, you want to invest in a company that employs more workers.
Okay.
So if it's in the same organization, it's fine. But if you are working on conglomerate, that means you want to diversify your investment. So you are thinking about comparing the hospital with a school. The hospital will have more workers than the school, maybe, or the school might have more than the hospitals. So you won't get a clear view of where to invest on because you are not comparing the same firms in the same industry. Do you get the point here? So that is the limitation about comparing based on the numbers of workers each firm has, especially when they are not in the same industry.
Yes.
Is it clear now? The second one, the value of output. For the value of output, we're talking about, this implies measuring the size of a business based on the volume they produce. So the limitation is that a high level of output does not mean that a business is large. When using other methods to compare, what I'm trying to say is this. A company producing bottled water might produce large quantities of bottled water compared to a company producing wine that might produce less volume. So if you now check the volume of what the bottled water is producing compared to a company producing wine, then you're like, oh, or producing juice, they are producing less, but doesn't mean that they are smaller than the company producing water. Definitely, when you compare it based on that, and you think about the revenue they could get, a company producing juice or wine will get more revenue than the company producing water. But the company producing water might produce large quantities. Do you get the point here? Yes. So it's misleading when you have to compare with different business sectors based on volume. They produce 10,000 bottles of water, they produce 2,000 bottles of juice. So
but the value there,
the value here is more than this.
Yes.
So as an investor, when you think about the volume alone, you are not thinking about the revenue, then it's misleading. Maybe you're not making the right decision.
Yes.
Clear? That's the limitation about value of output. Then the value of sales. This implies to measuring the size of a business based on their revenue. So the limitation here is that it could be misleading when comparing with different businesses in different industries. So the volume you get from a hospital is not going to be the same revenue you get in a school. They can't be the same. So when you compare school A with school B, fine. They are in the same level, they are in the same level of production. Do you understand? But when you compare a school with a hospital, you might not be getting a school with a hotel or a school with a restaurant. Because you want to invest, you are comparing, you want to choose based on the level, the volumes of sales. So you might not get and accurate information. Do you get the point here? The value of your revenue, the amount of money each business makes. If you're comparing a business in the same industry, it's fine. But when you have to compare different businesses within different industries, because you as an investor, you want to invest in a business that pays that has more revenue. So you can't compare businesses that are not in the same industry. That is the point. That's the limitation. Is it clear?
Yes, yes, yes.
Government cannot compare too. Not only investors. Government uses information too. Government cannot compare the value or the volume of sales. Yes, government can use it. It could help government anyway, because government would know that, oh, this business is the volume of sales of this business is not the same as the volume of the sales of that business. So the tax charge on this business will be less based on the volume. It's based on the volume of revenue compared to the tax charge on this business that is producing large revenue.
Yes.
That is getting large revenue. I think is it clear now?
Yeah.
That's about the value of sales. Then we have the value of capital employed. We're talking about the amount of capital invested into the business. So how big a business is or how small a business is can be measured based on the capital employed. But we have to put in mind that there are some businesses that operate on that are labor intensive, and there are some businesses that are capital intensive. So businesses that are capital intensive will use more equipment. So that means they will spend more, they will invest more on capital than businesses that are labor intensive. So measuring how big the size of the business is, you have to put into consideration if the business is labor intensive or capital intensive. That is the point. Yes. So you won't just say, oh, this is the amount of capital this business is investing. Oh, this is the value of its assets. This is the value of its liability. And when you check the other business, the value of its assets is less and the value of liability is less. But you wouldn't know if it is labor intensive or capital intensive. Is it clear?
Yes, yes, yes.
So any question about it? So that ends why government helps startups and comparing the size of businesses.